He says he doesn't care. He acts like you're just another person in his life. But his actions tell a completely different story. This is one of the biggest signs that he's fighting his feelings for you. A man who is emotionally conflicted will always send mixed signals. He may try to convince himself that there's nothing deeper between you. But his subconscious actions reveal the truth. He finds excuses to be around you, pays attention to details about you that others overlook, and goes out of his way to make sure you're okay, even if he doesn't openly express it. This kind of behavior is not accidental. It's not random. It's a battle between what he's trying to suppress and what naturally comes out despite his efforts to deny it. A man who is truly indifferent will not remember the little things, but a man who secretly has feelings for you will. He remembers what you like. The way you take your coffee, the songs you enjoy, and the things that make you laugh. He may not bring them up directly, but you'll notice subtle signs. He sends you a song that just happens to be your favorite. He orders your drink just the way you like it without asking. Or he casually brings up something you mentioned weeks ago that even you forgot. These actions aren't normal for someone who doesn't care. They're habits of someone whose mind is constantly thinking about you, whether he wants to admit it or not. Pay close attention to his behavior in group settings. Does he act differently around you compared to others? Maybe he teases you more, or maybe he seems unusually quiet when you're near, almost as if he's overthinking his every move. A man who is fighting his feelings will try to act natural, but he won't be able to. His subconscious betrays him. He becomes more aware of your presence than he should be. Even if he tries to act like he's unaffected, his body language says otherwise. He might position himself closer to you without even realizing it, or his eyes might always find their way to you when something funny happens in the room. These little things seem small, but they're actually huge giveaways that he's battling emotions he doesn't want to confront. Now let's talk about excuses. Because a man who's suppressing his emotions will always find reasons to be around you. Maybe he asks for your opinion on things that don't really require your input, or he suddenly needs help with something trivial just to keep the conversation going. He might randomly show up in places where he knows you'll be, acting like it's just a coincidence. But the truth is, he's making sure he stays connected to you without having to openly express his feelings. He might even ask mutual friends about you, pretending it's just casual curiosity. But let's be honest, men don't go out of their way to keep tabs on someone unless they care more than they're letting on. Even in digital communication, his actions will expose him. He might not be the first to text, but when he does, the conversation lasts longer than it needs to. He keeps the dialogue going, asking follow-up questions, responding in ways that show he's invested. And if he's really struggling with his emotions, he might even overcompensate by pulling back, taking hours to reply, or acting like he's too busy. When in reality, he's probably overthinking every response. He's caught in the struggle of wanting to talk to you, but not wanting to seem too eager. Another sign is how he reacts when other men are around you. He might not say anything outright, but watch his behavior. Does he seem irritated? Does his mood shift slightly when you mention another guy? Does he make sarcastic comments or suddenly act distant? Jealousy is a clear indication of suppressed feelings. He's trying to act like it doesn't affect him, but deep down, it does. He's watching, analyzing, wondering if he's losing his chance with you. If he didn't care, he wouldn't react. But because he does, his emotions slip through the cracks despite his best efforts to control them. And let's not forget those moments when he lets his guard down. Maybe it's a late night conversation where he gets a little too honest, revealing things he usually keeps to himself. Or maybe it's an unfiltered reaction, a look in his eyes, a moment of vulnerability, something that feels too real to be accidental. These are the moments when his true feelings shine through before he has a chance to mask them again. He might even say something that suggests deeper emotions, only to backtrack immediately, brushing it off as a joke or changing the subject. But the fact that it slipped out in the first place speaks volumes. At the end of the day, a man who is fighting his feelings for you will always show it through his actions. He might not verbalize it, he might even deny it, but his behavior will always tell the truth. You just have to pay attention. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, his emotions create an internal conflict that manifests in unpredictable ways. One of the clearest signs is his inconsistency. One moment he is warm, engaged, and seems genuinely interested in everything you have to say. The next, he pulls away, acts distant, or even ignores you completely. This hot and cold behavior isn't just random. It's a direct reflection of his inner struggles. He wants to be close to you, but at the same time, he's trying to resist those feelings, which creates an emotional push and pull that can be confusing for both of you. If you notice that his level of attention fluctuates drastically, it's because he is attempting to suppress what he feels. When he's caught up in the moment, when he forgets to hold himself back, his genuine affection comes through. He might flirt, show care, or make an effort to be around you. But as soon as he realizes he's getting too close, he pulls away to regain control. This cycle repeats because his mind is battling between wanting to be with you and convincing himself that he shouldn't. This emotional push and pull isn't just frustrating, it's telling. A man who truly doesn't have feelings for you won't need to withdraw after spending time with you. He won't feel the need to correct his behavior or suddenly act distant. But when a man is suppressing feelings, he feels like he has to step back to maintain his emotional guard. He might text you frequently for a few days, then suddenly disappear for a while, only to return as if nothing happened. He's not playing games. He's battling emotions he isn't ready to confront. This inconsistency also reveals itself in how he engages with you in different environments. When you're alone, he may be relaxed, engaging, and even open with you. But in group settings, he could act differently, perhaps a little colder, less attentive, or even purposefully ignoring you to keep himself in check. His inconsistency isn't an accident. It's a deliberate, though often subconscious, attempt to balance his emotions while hiding what he truly feels. Another common way this emotional inconsistency shows is through his responses to your availability. If you start to pull back or give him less attention, he suddenly becomes more interested. He checks in more, reaches out unexpectedly, or makes an effort to be where you are. But as soon as you reciprocate, he might withdraw again. This is because his feelings surface when he feels like he might be losing you, but when he gets your attention back, his resistance kicks in again. It's a push and pull dynamic that keeps repeating because he hasn't yet accepted what he truly wants. You might also notice that his mood shifts unexpectedly. One day he's extra charming, cracking jokes, and making you feel like you're the most important person in the room. The next he's distant, barely making eye contact and acting as if you don't exist. It's not that he suddenly lost interest, it's that his emotions got too real and he feels the need to step back and regain control. He might even overcompensate by acting indifferent or nonchalant, as if he's unaffected. But deep down, every action is a reaction to the battle he's fighting within himself. His inconsistency also extends to the way he communicates. If he's texting you regularly, responding quickly, and engaging in deep conversations, only to suddenly go quiet, it's not because he's genuinely busy. More often than not, it's because he's overthinking his emotions. He might feel like he's getting too close, so he takes a step back to avoid being too emotionally vulnerable. But once the distance starts to grow and he realizes he misses you, he comes back. This back and forth pattern is a strong sign that he's struggling to contain feelings that he hasn't fully processed yet. Even the way he interacts with other people around you can be inconsistent. One moment he seems protective or slightly possessive, subtly showing signs of jealousy when you're around other men. The next he pretends like he doesn't care, acting as if you're just another person in his life. He might even talk about other women in front of you, not because he's genuinely interested in them, but because he wants to convince himself that he's unaffected by you. This kind of behavior is not random. It's a clear attempt to suppress emotions that are becoming harder to ignore. And then there are the moments when he completely contradicts himself. Maybe he's told you he's not looking for anything serious, but his actions say otherwise. He might say he sees you as just a friend, yet he treats you differently from anyone else. He might insist that he's not interested, but his energy, the way he looks at you, the way he always finds a way back into your life, these things don't lie. Words can be misleading, but patterns of behavior tell the truth. A man's inconsistency is rarely about you. It's about him. It's about his struggle to come to terms with emotions that he's not ready to acknowledge. But the reality is, the more he fights it, the more obvious it becomes. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, one of the most revealing signs is his body language. Even when he tries to suppress his emotions, his subconscious movements betray him. The body doesn't lie. While words can be carefully chosen to hide the truth, gestures, posture, and microexpressions reveal what he's truly feeling inside. If you pay close attention, his physical responses will tell you more about his internal battle than anything he says. One of the most obvious signs is prolonged eye contact. When a man is trying to hide his feelings, he might avoid looking at you altogether, but in many cases, his eyes give him away. He may hold eye contact longer than usual, as if he's drawn to you without realizing it. When he does break eye contact, it's often abrupt, as if he's catching himself in a moment of vulnerability and pulling away before he gives too much away. His eyes will naturally find you in a crowded room, even when he's pretending not to notice you, and when he speaks to you, he may focus intensely, giving you his full attention, even if he tries to act indifferent. Beyond his eyes, his overall posture will shift when he's around you. If he's trying to fight his feelings, he may oscillate between leaning in and pulling away. When he's not thinking about it, he might unconsciously angle his body toward you, mirroring your movements or positioning himself closer than necessary. But when he realizes what he's doing, he might suddenly cross his arms, lean back, or put physical distance between you, as if to reestablish control over his emotions. Right? This back and forth behavior is a physical manifestation of his internal struggle. He wants to be close to you, but his mind is telling him to resist. Fidgeting is another undeniable sign. A man who is nervous around you, playing with his hands, adjusting his watch, rubbing his neck, or tapping his fingers, is often dealing with emotions he hasn't fully processed. These small, seemingly insignificant actions are his body's way of releasing the tension he feels when he's around you. He might fix his shirt, run his hands through his hair, or adjust his posture repeatedly, all because he's hyper aware of your presence and unsure of how to handle it. His facial expressions will also expose his true feelings. Even if he tries to keep his emotions in check, micro expressions, quick flashes of emotion that appear before he can mask them, will reveal his struggle. He may smile at you without meaning to, then quickly suppress it. He may look at you with warmth and softness in his eyes before quickly shifting to a more neutral or distant expression. He may even furrow his brow slightly in frustration when he realizes he's reacting to you in a way he didn't intend. These micro expressions happen in a split second, but if you watch closely, they tell a story of their own. When he's fighting his feelings, his personal space boundaries will also be inconsistent. Sometimes he will stand closer than necessary, drawn to your presence without realizing it. Other times, he will create intentional space between you, as if distancing himself physically will help suppress his emotions. If you touch him, even in an innocent way, a light tap on the arm, brushing past him, his reaction will be telling. He might tense up, hold his breath for a split second, or even pull away, not because he doesn't like it, but because the sensation is too intense for him to handle while he's trying to suppress his feelings. Another major clue lies in his nervous laughter. If he frequently laughs at things you say, even when they aren't that funny, it's because he's subconsciously trying to ease the tension he feels around you. Laughter is a natural way to break through nervous energy, and if he finds himself doing it often in your presence, it means he's struggling to maintain emotional control. And he might also smile involuntarily when talking to you, even if he quickly tries to suppress it. His happiness in your presence is something he can't fully hide, no matter how hard he tries. His breathing patterns can also shift when he's around you. If he suddenly takes a deep breath before speaking to you, or if his breathing becomes shallow when you're close, it's because his nervous system is responding to the emotions he's feeling. His voice may change too. It might become lower, softer, or even a little shaky at times. He might clear his throat often or hesitate before speaking, all signs that his body's reacting to an emotional struggle he's trying to contain. Even his hands will give him away. If he's resisting his feelings, he might clench his fists, grip objects tightly, or put his hands in his pockets to keep them still. He might also use his hands more than usual when speaking to you, as if his emotions need an outlet. Subconscious touching is another major sign. If he instinctively reaches out to fix something on you, brushes something off your shoulder, or lightly touches your back as you walk through a doorway, it means he's physically drawn to you, even if he's trying to resist it. His energy shifts when you enter the room. Even if he's deep in conversation with someone else, his body will react when he realizes you're there. He might straighten up, become more animated, or subtly change his posture to appear more confident. He might also become quieter, more reserved, as he processes your presence and tries to keep his emotions in check. Either way, the energy around him changes, and that shift speaks volume. No matter how much he tries to fight it, his body language will always reveal the truth. The subconscious mind is powerful, and when emotions are involved, they find ways to surface, even when words are carefully chosen to conceal them. If you notice these signs, know that his actions are telling a much deeper story, one that he might not even be ready to admit to himself yet. When a man is fighting his feelings for you, one of the most telling signs is the way he interacts with you through communication. Whether it's texting, calling, or speaking in person, his words and actions will often contradict each other. He might try to act indifferent, but his behavior will betray him. When someone is struggling with their emotions, they tend to overcompensate, avoid, or send mixed signals without even realizing. If you pay attention, his patterns of communication, or lack thereof, will give you a clear indication of what's going on inside his mind. One of the first things you'll notice is inconsistency. Some days he may be highly responsive, engaging in long conversations and showing genuine interest in what you say. Other times he might pull away, replying with short, vague messages, or even going silent for a while. This back and forth dynamic is a reflection of his internal conflict. When he's feeling confident and relaxed, his emotions naturally guide him toward you. But when he catches himself getting too close, he might create distance, thinking that suppressing his feelings will give him back control. This push-pull behavior is confusing, but it's not because he doesn't care, it's because he cares too much and doesn't know how to handle it. Another key sign is the way he communicates when he does reach out. Even if he tries to keep it casual, you'll notice that he finds excuses to talk to you. He might send random texts that don't seem to have a purpose, asking about something trivial or bringing up an old joke just to keep the conversation going. He might even send a message and then immediately follow it up with another, as if he's second-guessing himself and trying to justify why he reached out. It's his way of staying connected without having to fully confront his emotions. At the same time, when he is trying to resist his feelings, he may hesitate before initiating conversations. He might type out a message and then delete it, debating whether or not he should send it. If you pay close attention, you might notice that when he does finally text you, it's at odd hours or after he's had time to think, meaning he's likely been considering reaching out for a while, but was battling with himself over whether or not it was a good idea. In face-to-face conversations, his struggle will be even more obvious. He may be overly formal or distant, trying to maintain control over his emotions. He might hold back compliments or avoid talking about anything personal, yet when you're speaking, he listens intently, hanging on to every word, even if he pretends not to care. His reactions will be slightly delayed, as if he's processing everything carefully before responding. This is because his mind is constantly at war. One part of him wants to be open and express how he truly feels, while the other part is holding back out of fear, uncertainty, or stubbornness. One of the biggest indicators that he's fighting his feelings is the way he reacts when you mention other people, particularly other men. If he truly has no feelings for you, he won't care. But if he's struggling with his emotions, even the slightest mention of someone else can trigger a reaction. He might go silent, change the subject quickly, or even make dismissive comments. Sometimes he may even overcompensate by acting like he doesn't care at all, but his body language, clenched jaw, stiff posture, forced smile, will tell a different story. This is his way of masking jealousy while trying to convince himself that he's unaffected. Social media also plays a big role in how he communicates. If he's trying to fight his feelings, he might stop liking your posts or avoid engaging with you online. But despite this, he's still watching. He might be one of the first people to view your stories, or he might suddenly become active online right after you post something. These small details show that he's still invested in your life, but is deliberately holding himself back from being too obvious about it. When he does talk to you, his tone will be another major giveaway. If he's fighting his emotions, you'll notice shifts in how he speaks. Sometimes warm and engaging, other times distant and reserved. He may have moments where he lets his guard down, speaking with genuine emotion and vulnerability, only to quickly shut down afterward. These shifts aren't accidental, they're a reflection of his inner battle. He doesn't want to let himself get too close, so every time he slips, he feels the need to correct it by becoming distant again. His actions will often contradict his words. He might tell you he's busy but still find time to reply to your texts. He might say he's not thinking about relationships but get irritated when you seem interested in someone else. He might claim he doesn't care but still notice small details about you, like when you change your hairstyle or wear something new. His words will tell one story, but his behavior will always reveal the truth. Even when he tries to create emotional distance, the way he communicates will expose his real feelings. You'll notice that he remembers things you say, even when they seem unimportant. He'll bring up past conversations, reference something you mentioned in passing, or surprise you with how much he's been paying attention. This is because, deep down, he values your connection more than he's willing to admit. No matter how hard he tries to hide it, his communication patterns will give him away. Whether it's his inconsistent texting, his hesitant approach to conversations, or his overcompensation when pretending not to care, his struggle will always show. If you pay attention, you'll see the truth. He's fighting his feelings, but his actions will always reveal what's really in his heart.